Welcome, everyone. Appreciate you joining us today. Hopefully, everyone is either eating or have eaten a really good lunch. My name is Rachel Roy. I'm an enterprise account executive here at Fivetran. I'm joined by two folks from one of our great SIs, Hashmap. Kelly, I'll let you do intros.
Yeah, hey Rachel, this looks to be a lot of fun. I appreciate it. Hey everybody, Kelly Kohlleffel, Hashmap. I look after go-to-market for the company and have been working in the data space for a very, very long time. Looking forward to getting to know everybody a little bit, trying to make this a little bit informal. Neil, you are out in the Bay Area. Why don't you give a quick intro?
Hey guys, nice to meet you all. I'm Neil Sharma. I'm a sales exec at Hashmap, taking care of the West Coast territory, including California, Washington, anything from the Rockies, Arizona, and so forth. Yeah, looking forward to this conversation. And we at Hashmap look for help customers with their data initiatives. So feel free to reach out and check out our website, hashmapping.com.
Awesome. We have a pretty good agenda planned for you all today, but we definitely want this to be interactive. So if you are new to Slingshow, there is a chat feature down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Feel free to type in questions. We'll stop periodically and address those. Definitely looking for questions on the industry, best practices, whatever you have for us, we're happy to go through. So with that, I'm going to stop presenting my screen and hand it over, Kelly, to you to go ahead and share yours.
Sounds good, Rachel. Thank you. Let me get that rolling. I just popped into the chat window. I'm coming to you from the home of Texas A&M University today, College Station. So I'm definitely Texas-based, not normally in College Station. Anybody else coming to us from Texas today, or is it mainly West Coast? I think it's mainly West Coast, but just curious. You never know. Texan might slip in here or there. All right. We have got, as Rachel said, a lot to go through over the next half hour, 45 minutes. And one of the things we're going to try to do is share some perspective, share some insight, share some thoughts on what we're seeing in the industry overall. I want to give you a little background about why we're even talking to you today. For those of you that don't know Hashmap, everybody asks, well, what does Hashmap do? The easiest way to think about us is we design and build data products, data pipelines, data architectures, data applications, anything involving data, that's really us. If you're wanting to deal with infrastructure, we'll send you somewhere else. So if you want to deal with the data, we will help you out. And really, over the last, we started in, it doesn't say on this slide, we started in 2012 as a bootstrap consulting services startup. We were acquired this year, actually in January, but during that 2012 to 2017 timeframe, most of what we did was on premise. Today, from 2018 to today, it's probably 95% cloud, and the customers that certainly have still a lot of on-premise applications, databases, those kind of things are, we're helping them, especially with Fivetran's help, to make that a simple and painless transition to getting those data sets in the cloud for easy insights and data value. So a little bit about us. If you follow us at all, I hope you will. I think we've got some links in here a little bit later on. We're really big in contributing to the community. So coming back from our open source roots in 2012, we have continued to try to do as much on technical blog posts, podcasts, videos, how-to videos, those kind of things, use cases. So definitely check it out. I think Neil mentioned hashmapping.com. If you put a /Fivetran, then you'll see some really cool Fivetran content that we've got as well, and some of the ways that we partner together. But again, for us, we do not sell Fivetran. We're not a product company. We are strictly consulting services. And so we have these conversations every day where customers come to us and they say, hey, I've got, an SAP system. I've got my Zendesk or Oracle or whatever it may be, Salesforce, and I need to get this data in the cloud. Help me do that in a simple, easy way. Those are the kind of things that folks approach us on. The questions that we get asked are like I said, very similar to that. It's, hey, I'm a manufacturing organization and I've got 3 manufacturing sites scattered around the country. We'd like to consolidate that for one view across all of our manufacturing facilities for analytics and reporting. Or, I've got Salesforce, HubSpot, Zendesk, Gainsight, whatever those things are in the cloud, and I'd like to be able to do more with a cloud data platform. How do I make that happen? And how do I do a lot of the automation around that? Kind of using maybe some DevOps processes in the data space as an example. We help clients with large migrations, those kind of things. I think one of the most interesting ones that I can remember over the last couple of years, I've mentioned on a couple of other webinars, is that we were working with a marketing organization for a healthcare firm out on the West Coast, and they came to us and said, "Hey, our problem is we need you to help us spend more money. We've got more budget than we know what to do with because we're getting such good returns from paid social and paid ads. We're getting more money. They're saying, hey, go do more of this, but we don't know exactly, where we should put this to get the most bang for our buck, so to speak." So those are always kind of fun. And certainly when you look at marketing organizations, there's a lot of data sets, both on-prem, but certainly in the cloud as well, that Fivetran is a great solution to help with. So I'll throw it over to, first, let me throw it over to you guys in the audience. Any questions that either you're getting asked or that you are asking that you want to pop into the chat window that are top of mind for you here in, what are we, as we round out the summer? And while you're doing that, let me throw it over to Rachel as well. Rachel, for you, as you're working with clients, what are you hearing? What are some of the top questions that you're getting asked or that clients are asking that they're looking for answers to right now?
Yeah, so I think, kind of top of mind, obviously customer 360 is something all companies are trying to be able to build and compile to really understand the footprint of their customers. Where are we spending money? Where are our customers coming? But with that, and very timely, is obviously kind of the changes that are happening in the market around data privacy and Google Chrome taking away cookies, for example. How is that going to impact what we're able to track? How are we going to change our marketing approach, our analytics approach? So that's been a really interesting one. And then I think too, for our larger customers, majority of the space is at least understanding of the value of the cloud, and they want to get there eventually. And so we've been on solutions like Teradata for the last X amount of years, or we've been on this Oracle EDW for 30 years. How do we transition to the cloud when we have all of these decades of business logic built out in the existing system? So it's kind of that, how do you sit down and eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. So I think that's one of the things that we're hearing a lot as well, Kelly.
Okay, no, really interesting. I think the main thing I take away from that is there are a lot, number one, a lot of questions and a lot of use cases wrapped up in those questions that I think we can certainly dig into. One of the other things I want to do, we want to show you results of a couple of LinkedIn polls that we'd run over the last couple of quarters. And I'll start it off by, again, asking another question, a little bit different spin. What's your biggest data challenge? And again, if you could put that into the chat window, that would be outstanding. I'm not going to give you the LinkedIn poll results just yet. If you want to put a couple of answers in there, Neil, Rachel, Marta, feel free to add something in too if you'd like to. But this one's pretty interesting. I think you'll be interested in the results. So a couple more seconds. Let me put that up. So this is what, and this may not be overly surprising to you. And I think that what we find is that, we talk about all this, hey, let me do some cool AI ML stuff. Let me do all this advanced analytics and, really start doing some great stuff with my data. Well, I think what you find is that all sounds great, but you've got to have really solid data quality. You've got to have, accuracy when you're persisting data from your source systems up to the cloud data platform. You want to have schemas that migrate automatically and give you that accuracy, give you that quality, give you the things that you're expecting, so that you've got number one, really high levels of trust in the data that you're making decisions on and delivering insights from. And secondly, it's usable, right? It's in a curated, usable state. So I think poor data quality is a challenge. And then I think the second one on here, too many data silos, is it really doesn't matter if you're a startup or you're a really large organization. I think this happens quickly. I just look at Hashmap, we're probably 190 folks. Everything we do is in the cloud. We have zero, nothing is on-prem, everything's in the cloud, but we still have a lot of cloud services that we use. It's not just, I've got, HubSpot, I've got Snowflake, I've got Fivetran that I use to help bring all that stuff together. But I got a host of other things, Smart Sheets and CPOL and a lot of other operational systems on the finance side and everything. So no matter your size, I think it's the silos are definitely a challenge. The second one that I wanted to mention to you, so we did a poll recently that asked, we'd done a cloud data platform benchmarking and analysis. We took Snowflake, BigQuery, Redshift, Azure Synapse, and Databricks, Delta Lake. And we kind of looked at, we benchmarked those out, ran query tests, load tests, transformation tests. We did a bunch of subjective analysis. And then we asked, what's most important to you around that benchmark test? And to me, it was kind of interesting. The data extract load performance came out on top. And Rachel, I don't know if you see this in general. I mean, this, to me, it was a little surprising. I'm thinking, queries are most important, but there's so much involved. If I can't, in an efficient, effective way, extract and load data, then I think the rest of it kind of falls apart. What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, I would say you would be shocked at the number of people who come to us who are halfway through a trial with a Snowflake or a Databricks, and they're like, we have spent the last couple of months getting ready for this trial, but we kind of skipped the step where we need data in this warehouse to actually be able to do our POC, or, we just bought Snowflake and we don't have a way to easily and reliably get data in. So this huge investment we just made is going to be shelfware until we can solve that problem. So yeah, very common for us as well. I think, people want to focus on, once the data lands, how am I able to extract insights? Because that's where the value comes from this process to their company, but you got to get the data there first. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be interested to know too, if you're using a cloud data platform today, or you're looking at one. If you wanted to put that into the chat window and just kind of give us an idea, that would be interesting to see. We see, I mentioned the 5 that we benchmarked, and you're welcome, if you want to set up time to review those results, just use that URL there. We'd be happy to share that stuff with you. But yeah, let us know what's your preferred or your visionary cloud data platform out there. That would be great to know. All right, so I mentioned giving you some perspectives. I think this is a pretty easy to understand slide. What this is, though, we talked about doing a lot of cloud data projects over the last number of years. And I think for us, this is where, this culmination of what's been most important to clients as they've either been making the journey from on-prem to the cloud, or just moving into a modern data stack right out of the gate. These are the things that tend to, we hear repeated over and over and over. Look, don't make this any harder than it needs to be. Don't over-architect this. Make this simple. Make this utility-based. Let me not have to deal with ridiculous amounts of infrastructure. Simplify. Keep it simple until you can. And along with that, to me, which is the one I like the most, because I think it's so relevant today, is speed. That time to impact, time to value, time to delivery is what gives all of us in this data area relevancy, I think. If you can't deliver speed, you will be irrelevant very, very quickly. We'll be irrelevant as a partner. Fivetran would be irrelevant as a technology partner, us as a service partner. And you guys delivering data solutions and data services and data sets to your either internal and or external constituents. So that speed to impact, really, really important. Talk a lot about, let me not have to use a bunch of baling wire, duct tape, Gorilla Glue, Elmer's glue, whatever it is, glue sticks to hold this stuff together. And quite honestly, I don't even want to know what you have to do on the backside. I just want it to work. I want the SLAs that we signed up for to be there. And I want the speed and performance to be there too. So that sustainability is just absolutely critical. Self-serve sometimes can be a little bit elusive. It's easy for us to say as data practitioners, but I think getting there is a whole nother chore. But again, I think if you can take a lot of that hard work out of the pipelining, out of the data engineering, out of the work to get data from source to target in a usable, trusted state, that self-serve becomes a lot more doable. So I think today in 2012, 2015, and probably even up to around 2017, 18, very, very tough. I think today that becomes more achievable. And security scale savings go without saying almost. I mean, you've got to have those things. Rachel talked about the privacy aspect a while ago. Whether you're a startup, whether you are, a single business unit, whether you're an enterprise with multiple business units, you want to be able to scale. And then, every dollar is really critical. And I really only want to pay for what I'm using. I personally like consumption-based models. I think it fits really well with how we consume almost everything we do today from a personal standpoint. I think aligning like that on the business side is really important too. Rachel, what, again, just with the work that you're doing and what you're hearing, any of these stand out to you that you're hearing more than others right now?
Yeah, so I think to your point, Kelly, the speed's massive. And with that, I think it's intrinsically tied to simplicity. It's really hard to have a complex system move quickly. And then on the self-serve, we hear this from pretty much everyone that we speak to. But what's really interesting, I think, similar, going back to what we were talking about with warehouses and people kind of skipping the step if they need to get the data to the warehouse, the concept of self-serve analytics, there is a lot of phases of evolution of what this actually looks like. And I think, to your point, it really starts with how can we automate this process and get the data where it's landing? But then it really starts to bleed in. Once the data's here, how do we control who has access? How do we know if somebody should have access to this set of PII data? And so it does start to get a lot more complex when you're in the more sophisticated end of that. So I think it's important to kind of remember that there's a scale of what these look like, and it's going to evolve as you automate and kind of get the process and the modern data stack implemented as you move further into that.
Yeah, no, I like that. As you were talking, I was thinking, I put it in the chat window too. I mean, had a client the other day said, "Hey, I'd like you guys to add stretchy to this list." The fact that elasticity is really, really important to us. So if we're missing an S, if there's it's got to have an S. So if we're missing an S, let us know. We'll be happy to add it in. And again, what matters most to you? If you had to pick 2 or 3 of these that you said, for my organization, for what I'm trying to achieve, for what I'm doing, for what's expected out of me, this is what I have to be able to drive with my overall data estate. So be interesting to hear your thoughts on that too. All right, let's see. Here we go. I always tell people Hashmap cannot do a presentation without at least one architecture slide. This is a really simple one, but this is definitely the obligatory architecture slide. But I like this because when you think about it, and Rachel, I think you talked about it a little while too. I mean, it's more because we're asking the question, what cloud data platform are you looking at or what are you using? It's more than just the cloud data platform. I've got data acquisition I've got to deal with. I've got data transformation I've got to deal with. Extract, load, transform. I've got consumption that I need to look at. What are those different workloads and consumption patterns that I've got to address out there, and so on. And I hope this will help you just at a high architectural level think about a modern data stack and how it can help you impact that entire data life cycle, if you will. And I'll start on the left. So, you think about what Fivetran really brings to the table. We'll talk about this in a little more detail in a little while, but you've got it's a utility-based solution for data acquisition, extract, and load. And now getting more and more into the transformation space too. There's some really cool packages that Fivetran has developed for leveraging DBT that you can pull and use right out of the gate. So think about literally almost any source, and if the source is not there, it's pretty easy to develop a connector that configures to a source. It's not in the list, but 200 plus sources that can go to just about any target that you need it to, and pick up any changes that you need, do it very quickly. Again, going towards, for me, data trust and data usability. Those are the two key things to me. Fivetran is doing a fantastic job of that. So think about that aspect. Then let's go to the compute and store. I got to have a way to process that data that I just extracted, acquired, and loaded. Where am I going to do that? One of the platforms that we see a lot out there is Snowflake. And storage, object storage in the cloud right now, it kind of, one of the things that really kind of put Hadoop on its heels a few years ago was the large public cloud saying, hey, for 20, 25, 23, $25, you can store all you want out here, right? And so, the idea of, hey, I got all this cheap hardware that I can use with big data platforms. Okay, now I can do it so much simpler, not even have to deal with the infrastructure in the cloud. So look at your compute, look at the way that you're using that compute, the way those patterns are progressing for you, and you'll want to do some cost monitoring and control and those kind of things. But if you design it right, you can really get some huge value out of these cloud data platforms. And then, you're going to want to transform the data. You're going to want to enrich the data. You're going to want to make this as usable as possible for your consumers. And again, that Fivetran DBT combo works really, really well. If you haven't checked out DBT, it's an open source solution, I'll say in the analytics engineering space, that if you've got some SQL skills, you can be really, really effective with, especially if you combine it up with a solution like GitHub, GitLab, Azure DevOps, something like that. And then data consumption. And again, this is on the right is representing a number of patterns. I think a lot of times you think about traditional BI and analytics. Let me do reporting. Let me look across my business at what's going on from a pricing standpoint or a product standpoint or a customer standpoint. But there are a lot of folks also developing net new data applications. They are taking data out of their cloud data platform in some instances and activating operational apps with that data as well to make decisions more in the moment. And we talk about that a lot. It's something that's not going on a lot right now, but it's starting to be asked about quite a bit. How can I share? How can I set up a data exchange? And then obviously programmatic access, a lot of API access into these platforms as well. And then lastly, what we look for in a modern data stack is give me some choice. Don't lock me into having to use a particular public cloud. If I can go across at least the major three, that is a very, very good thing. And then really work to automate that as well. So when you're thinking about leveraging Fivetran and these other solutions in a modern data stack, you can kind of, see this circular approach left to right that will help you think about that it's not just one thing, it's not just one process, not just one tool. You kind of have to have that ecosystem that goes together.
Kelly, I have a question for you.
Yeah, shoot.
Yeah, so not sure if you guys saw the news a couple of days ago. Equifax just partnered with Snowflake to be able to allow all of their data available through the Snowflake data share. If you're not familiar with it, definitely worth a Google. Curious if you have customers coming to you kind of realizing that if they aren't going to start taking advantage of the newer concept of data sharing, are they going to be beat out by competitors? Because I think one of the things that we're seeing, especially in like oil and gas industries, they're going to the data share to purchase all of this data that they've been getting historically through file dumps or really inefficient processes. And being able to leverage the Snowflake marketplace just makes it so much more seamless that they're actually switching vendors who are, who've been providing this data to them for 10 or 20 years. So curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think if, regardless of the industry or size company, if you're not thinking about how can I use the data that I have to an advantage for my customers, then you really are missing an opportunity. Whether that manifests itself into a Snowflake data share or a more generic data exchange, or maybe it's just you're opening up API access to your data to even an individual client or two or customer or two, I would say 100% everybody is doing that. And don't think that these are only sort of progressive data product companies. These are your most traditional companies, most traditional industries as well that have been around for 100 plus years that are at a minimum opening up API access into their platform. So yeah, I think that's a great point. I did see the Equifax, and I think you will see more large data services like that probably jumping on board over the next 12 to 18.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So so we talked a little bit about Fivetran. Rachel's going to get into that a little bit more in a little while, but I think this is my favorite Fivetran slide right here because it kind of hits in a little bit different way what we were just talking about. When I look at the hard work that we've had to do back in the 2010, 2012, even up to around 2017, 18 timeframe to acquire data, persist data, normalize data, transform it, et cetera, that took a lot of work. It took a lot of people actually to do, and every time we had a different source, then that was a whole nother process to take into consideration, and usually took a lot of time and effort. And I love the fact for us as an SI services firm that, Fivetran, number one, out of the box, I've got a lot of connectors for everything from apps to databases to if I've just got semi-structured files, CSV files, those types of things. I can do a lot of that stuff right out of the box with Fivetran. Fivetran is, again, think of it almost as a data integration utility. They are managing everything. It is a pure SaaS service. You are not having to deal with infrastructure. You're not having to deal with figuring out, okay, what's my cluster size? What size machine do I want? Forget about it. You don't have to do any of that stuff. Fivetran does that for you. And you just have a really easy way to configure source to target and have data curated in a way so that it is ready to go. Think automatic data updates and schema migrations, those types of things that are things that, in the past took a lot of hard work to actually get data in that usable, trusted state. So to me, I know it's a little bit maybe on the technical side for this particular slide, but this is what really makes Fivetran sing for us as a services firm. And Rachel, I don't know, do you have another take on that?
I missed the last part of that question. Kelly, can you repeat it, please?
No, I just asking any other thoughts on this particular slide and the overall value that Fivetran brings to the table for clients?
Yeah, I think, definitely the number one value that we hear from our customers is that automatic schema migration. And then I think tied pretty closely is that, as you mentioned before, Fivetran's a fully managed service. And so anytime a software connector is updating their API, for example, Salesforce, they like to change it multiple times a quarter. The Fivetran engineers are ahead of that. We are editing our connectors, so it's going to be compliant and stable with the most recent API, assuming it's a stable API. That's just, once again, hours that your engineers aren't spending trying to interpret the new API documentation from Facebook, from Google, from Salesforce. They rather can spend their time once your data has landed in the problems that only your team can solve, not something that somebody's already solved.
Yeah. I like it. I don't have this question on a slide, but I will ask, what is your most challenging data source today? What's the one that, kind of keeps you up at night or gives you the most problems during the day that, man, why is this pipeline breaking again? Again, if you want to pop it into the chat window, what is your most challenging data source? And I will follow that up with, what is your dream team tech stack? It doesn't have to be a modern. I think, most people would say maybe a modern data stack is certainly the way to go, but maybe you have a different approach on that. What's your dream team tech stack? Do you have certain technologies that you're really interested in that are having an impact on your business? Would love to know what those are and what you're getting value out of as well. So throw those two questions out. I want to hit on this, and again, maybe Rachel and Neil, if you guys want to comment as well. I think this is not all-encompassing. This is not every potential business outcome that can be driven out of a modern data stack across industries. But I think it is, for us anyway, fairly representative when we always like to ask, what are you trying to do? What can't you do today that you're trying to do? What impact is it going to have? And it's always hard to drive out, actual numbers and metrics and dollars and all those kind of things. But in general, this is both from a business and a technology standpoint. I think this is what our clients are looking to do. Rachel or Neil, what are you guys seeing out there? What stands out to you, and what are you hearing more than any other right now?
Well, everybody wants, as I said, be efficient. If I have one word to say, whether it's be efficient in data acquisition, whether it's building up a central data platform, it's all talks about being efficient and having quick time to value. Because legacy stacks, took too much time, too hard to handle, too much effort, right? A single requirement back in the time when I was doing SAP BW took us a couple of months to deliver a report or dashboard. With Fivetran and the Snowflake combo, acquisition is relatively much simpler, much faster. But these are the business drivers when I look at it, top business drivers, right? You want to save money, make money, and save time.
Yeah.
Bring it up. So all three talk about being efficient. And you want to build in scalable platform and not be open to integration with other sources, right? And other platforms and not get kind of locked into a single environment. So that's some of the asks too, building up the new data stacks.
Yeah, no, those are great points, Neil. And Rachel, what in general, the project demand around data is just continuing to increase. Everybody that we talk to says, I've got a big problem here. Not only do I guess it's a good thing maybe, but I got this huge list of projects, and guess what? It's growing. We can't reduce it because every time we knock out one data product, then there's 3 or 4 more that are sitting there waiting in the wings. Are you seeing this as well? And maybe just your comment on kind of that speed aspect and that ability to deliver high quality data sets very, very quickly.
Yeah, I think, a lot of people, we're hearing the same thing. That list is growing. No matter how many people or what projects they kind of check off, that list, that backlog is continuously growing in size. And, take a step back and kind of think about what's happening in the world. Technology is growing at a, historic rate. And so, of course, there's more software that sales is going to buy. There's more that marketing is going to buy. And if you think about the complexity of tech stacks for those departments, it's 3 or 4x the size that it used to be 10 years ago. So of course the demand from the data team is 3 or 4 times higher, if not more, is because they're adding so much. And then as you get access to more data, your data needs increase too, because you want to do more since you have more data. So I think that's really important. And then to your and Neil's point, obviously speed, time to value is huge. We are working with a lot of customers who are going through M&A activity. I think we've seen that a lot kind of in the last year and a half with COVID. There's just been a lot of things going on in the market. It's lended itself to a lot more acquisitions than we've seen kind of over the last 5 years. And so the biggest KPI, SLA tied to M&A is how quickly can you get these two companies integrated and moving towards the common goals. And obviously data is a key part to that. And often one of the biggest challenges, what do you do when you're trying to join two companies and somebody's still on-prem and somebody's embraced the modern data stack? That is a very different ecosystem that you're trying to kind of zipper together, if you will. And then also just one of the other things that I particularly find really interesting is I'm working now with a lot of product teams. Typically, we're engaged with the data team, the analytics team, the IT team, but we've been engaging a lot over the last year with product teams because they are starting to kind of enable themselves on, we're collecting a lot of data about our customers through our product. how can we turn this into an asset, kind of to our conversation earlier, and either sell that back to our customers, integrate it into our product as potentially another product that customers have to upsell to purchase, or just make our product better. And so those use cases have also been really, really interesting to work and partner with our customers on.
Those are great examples, and I think even if you're not looking to monetize that data or create a new product or anything, I think the ability to take that data with customers and deliver more value, more insights back to them, even if you're not charging extra for it, it helps make those customers stickier to you as a service provider. So no, I love those examples. I totally agree with you that is happening in mass right now. Really cool.
You're paying for Pendo data. You might as well be serving it at least to your product team to improve the product, and then probably back to the consumers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Just in the interest of time, I probably won't go into these in detail. I did want to point out that one of the things I think is really interesting as you start looking at a solution like Fivetran. Number one, it's going to cut across industries. And it doesn't matter if you are, a new data company or a traditional manufacturer, let's say, healthcare, FinServe, anything in between, communications, transportation. The way that Fivetran goes to market with the range of connectors, you are going to find something in there that addresses a requirement that you have. And you kind of see that there's a lot of different data sources here, 4 different industries, differing data sources across each one of these industries. And I'd also tell you that, again, whether you're a startup or a very large organization, you're going to find the requirements met in general with what Fivetran brings to the table. So if you're looking to move quicker, keep it simple, and create this utility-like experience for your data integration estate, that's what these kind of companies are doing, leveraging Fivetran. Marketing analytics, customer 360, I think Rachel or Neil talked about a while ago. Consolidated reporting across multiple sites, all of those kind of new data apps, just like you mentioned a while ago, Rachel, at this fintech company that we were talking about, the second one over there. So really cool stuff, a range of applications, a range of connectors, and a lot of ways to use Fivetran very, very effectively. All right. Let me share a little bit on this. So again, trying to give you some perspectives. First of all, I would say if you've not moved your data estate into the cloud, number one, it is a little bit of a shift. And one of the big things that you can get value out of is move your transformations into the cloud data platform. If you're a traditionalist, let's say, with maybe ETL solutions that kind of worked in the context and on hardware and infrastructure that were specific to that solution, think about moving those transformations, taking advantage of the elasticity and scalability that you have in the cloud data platform. In order to do that, you've actually got to know your cloud data platform really, really well. You don't want to waste money. You don't want to waste cycles. You don't want to leave compute running when it should not be. How can I ensure that as I'm leveraging that compute for my transformations, or leveraging that compute for maybe doing something interesting to enrich upon ingestion or data quality, I'm doing it in the right way? Every one of these is a little bit different. They have their nuances. Some may be a little bit simpler than others. So I'd say dig into that a little bit. And then lastly, even, and I think, Rachel would probably even tell you, I mean, don't wear yourself out trying to pick, and go, okay, I've got to find the one solution that's going to address every use case, every pattern, every architectural nuance that I have, every single data source that I have. I think you kind of look at your risk value continuum and go, okay, I can do a lot with Fivetran for these data sources to deliver these outcomes. And a connector may not be there today. We're actually doing a project for a client out on the West Coast right now that is there's a lot of out-of-the-box Fivetran connectors, but they needed some that were custom configured. So we're able to do that as well and bring that to the table very, very quickly. So don't think because a connector's not there that you have to, okay, I got to go look at another product now. likely that you can get it done with Fivetran. And Rachel, I don't know if you're seeing that as well as you look at clients that go, oh, wait a minute, this one's not there out of the box, but I might need to, custom configure something.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, with kind of where we are in the market, a lot of, larger customers who've been around for a long time, most of them are familiar or on an Informatica or a Talent or, kind of these, I don't want to say dinosaurs, but, these well-established softwares that have really been a catch-all for kind of everything soup to nuts. And so with that, a lot of customers are coming to us with this mentality, Kelly, to your point of, I need one solution to do absolutely everything. And it ranges from data preparation to cataloging to governance and all of this. And then what ends up happening is they end up with a solution that's not great at everything. And they're trying to kind of put a, square peg into a round hole. And so we will often have a lot of conversations where enterprise companies are coming to us. We have 800 sources. Do you have a connector for all of these? And of course not. Nobody's going to have those pre-built for you. A lot of them are niche to your industry, et cetera. But to your point, we do have about a dozen pre-built connectors that can be configured for custom sources that aren't natively supported that allow you to answer that long tail. But then also I would encourage companies, often you do have very complex architectures. Maybe it makes sense to have a Fivetran alongside of your Informatica. Maybe you've had Informatica for 20 years. That Salesforce connector breaks 60 times a month. You're sick of spending engineering time on it. That's a really good place for Fivetran to come in and automate it for you. But maybe it's not realistic for your team to redo all of your business logic that you have built in Informatica this year. Maybe that's a 2025 goal, and that's okay. So to your point, they don't, kind of avoid that option fatigue. Just kind of try and solve one bite at a time, if you will.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that, sometimes if you look at number 3 here, you look at that, I need that multi-tool, does everything, the unicorn tool. And like Rachel said, it's just really difficult to find. Get focused on that number 2 there, which is your outcomes. You do that by keeping it simple, being able to move fast, making it sustainable, all those things. And lastly, number 4, we'd say, really consider how you can move towards a modern data stack, modern approach, modern process, modern tools overall that are going to allow you to help achieve those 7 S's. And I will wrap up here, Rachel, just for anybody, again, not familiar with Hashmap. Again, a lot of cool services we can help you guys with. If you need anything in the data space, definitely reach out to us. Neil would be happy to connect with you. Ping us on Slack or on LinkedIn, something like that. Glad to help in any way that we can. Rachel, that is it for me. In fact, I'm almost done with this triple espresso. I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to turn it back over to you, and appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelly. I can't imagine what you're going to be like after the end of that triple, if that's the amp level you're already at.
That's right.
I love it. Okay, I just switched over to my slides. Can you see those, Kelly?
Yes, and that's my second favorite Fivetran slide. Beyond the other one that I showed, I love this one.
I have your favorite, so you'll get to see it again. Yeah. So, obviously Kelly talked a lot about kind of what's happening in the market, and just to take it a step a little bit deeper from the technical perspective, I love this slide because it really speaks to a lot of the challenges that customers are coming to us with. This first one, this is one I hear regardless of the use case, regardless of the size of the company. We have X solution, whether it's built internally, whether it's a different tool, but our pipelines are constantly breaking. And that is where my engineers are having to spend a ton of time. And then my business consumers, my data consumers, have an interruption in their data that's leading to broken pipelines, CEOs mad, et cetera. That's a very common problem for us. Similarly, that bleeds into what Kelly talked about. My engineers don't have enough time to do everything in their growing backlog, and they're getting bored of these menial tasks. I've yet to meet an engineer developer who likes building and maintaining pipelines. Not to say that they probably don't exist. Might be a little crazy, but that probably exists out there. But one of the other things in this highly competitive market that customers are really starting to think about is, I want to ensure that my employees are engaged in work that's meaningful to them. so we don't have a ton of attrition and have to hire, because this is a really hard market to be hiring, especially technical people in. And then lastly, those last ones, just not having good, clean data ready to be able to have data-driven enabled decisions is a huge roadblock, if you will, to companies today. And it's going to prevent companies from scaling and being competitive in this market, because everybody else is focused on this and trying to solve this problem. So if you're not addressing your data needs, you're going to be left behind as this pack kind of continues within your industry. So let's get into it. I know Kelly talked a lot about Fivetran, but just to kind of level set, if you aren't familiar with us, what is Fivetran? First and foremost, we are built in the cloud. So a lot of the same values he touched on with modern technologies like a Snowflake and a Databricks apply to us too. We're able to scale and grow quickly. You don't have to go pay for those servers and maintain that hardware yourself. Fivetran handles all of that for you. We are an extract, load, and transform data ingestion tool that focuses on being 100% automated. So your engineers don't have to be building and maintaining pipelines. They can be focused on, what transformation am I going to build for this new tool that my CMO bought to ensure that their team is getting the insights that they need. And then if you think about kind of the ELT, ETL space, there's obviously a lot of vendors in this space. And the Fivetran approach is we are that 100% automated. And so we go ahead and we pre-build connectors for you. So those connectors, we have about 200 right now in the arsenal, as well as about the dozen that can be used for custom configurations, like Kelly mentioned in that project that they're working on. Those range from database connectors. We support pretty much every modern database. We're working our way through the old ones. So if you have DB2 still available, we have a connector for you, and we are going through all the other flavors there. We have connectors for majority of the commonly used cloud applications. If you're trying to do that customer 360, we have connectors for every social media application out there. We just added TikTok. I think we're the only vendor who supports TikTok. So if you're really good at your dances and want to see the impact on your brand, we got that in our arsenal for you. And then also with that, setup is really easy. It takes about 5 minutes per connector, per destination. You select what tables you want to be replicating. You set the frequency that you want us to be checking for updates, click start, and we're off to the races. So if we dig in a little bit deeper, if we are thinking about a modern data stack or the modern architecture, Kelly showed his beautiful simplistic slide. I'm showing a little bit more detailed one. This is kind of how we think about the market. So, we have all of our sources that are producing all of the data that we want to consume. Fivetran's able to take all of that data in those sources, write it to your cloud data warehouse. We are seeing a shift in the market that a lot of companies are considering a dual approach, either to clouds, whether it's a data lake and a data warehouse, to warehouses, or something like a Databricks and a Snowflake that are similar but provide different value depending on the end users of that data. Fivetran can be the ingestion tool to get data to all of those places for you in a reliable and clean fashion, as Kelly mentioned. And then you really want to be doing all of your data work once it's landed, once it's available to you, so then you can really set your organization up for that situation where you have self-service analytics for the data users. It's not something that you need a PhD in anymore. An analyst off of the street who maybe just graduated college, they should be able to figure their way out through your data tools. Awesome. So back to Kelly's favorite slide, but I wanted to talk through the technical aspects here a little bit more. So from the technical side, how does Fivetran actually work? We connect to all of your sources. We do a historical sync of all of that data, and as part of that process, we will actually automatically create the table and schema structure for you in your warehouse or your data lake. For databases, it's a one-to-one replication. For cloud warehouses, cloud sources, especially if it's denormalized data, we're actually going to go ahead and normalize that and provide a structure to that data for you. We're going to provide an entity relationship diagram that maps out all of the primary keys and foreign keys. So your analysts don't have to spend a week or two getting to know a new data set. We've already provided that map to them, so they're able to hit the ground running a lot quicker if they're dealing with a new source of data that they're maybe not familiar with. Once we've completed that historical sync, done all of that work for you in the warehouse, we're going to go back to the source and check for updates on the increment that you select, whether it's once a week, once a day, every 5 minutes, once a minute, up to you. We'll go and check for those updates. We do take an upsert approach in your warehouse for you. So we're going to insert any existing or insert any new rows, update any existing rows. Just makes it a lot cleaner once that data is there. You're not having to do an additional data munging because we're not appending the tables once the data's landed. And then just a couple of other things to point on. We've built a lot of intelligence into our pipelines. And that's the nice thing when you're building a pipeline for thousands of customers, you have a lot of engineers who can work on really fine tuning it. And so some of those points of intelligence, first and foremost, is going to be that automatic schema migration. So if a Salesforce admin is adding a new field on an opportunity, I know within our organization that happens at least once a week. In traditional models, that would break the pipeline and someone would have to go in and kind of figure out what happened, or sales ops would have to let the dev team know we're going to make this change so they don't have a disruption in their data. With Fivetran, we actually automatically recognize that that change has occurred and just replicate that over to the warehouse for you. Similarly, we took an intelligent approach to disasters. You know, AWS went down a couple of months ago. I think GCP went down a couple of months before that. What happens to your pipelines in that situation? So with Fivetran, we actually automatically handle reconnecting for you. Once that comes back online, we retry, we reconnect it for you. No humans have to take intervention. And then more importantly, we know what data was replicated and what data hasn't been. So we'll go and do a full update of all of the data that has changed during that downtime. So you're not going to have any loss of data or data integrity issues either. And that's all automatic. No engineers, no developers have to be working weekends or 4 a.m. in the event that the servers go down or Salesforce goes down or anything along those lines. That's all just pre-baked in the connectors for you. And then the last thing I want to talk on, we are actually building out the ability for slowly changing type 2 dimensional data through a number of our connectors. So if you have maybe some more advanced analytics or modeling teams, this is going to be key for them being able to understand and create those behavioral change models. I know we have a number of customers in the insurance space who are using it to calculate all of their premiums and how to actually price out licenses because they're able to see all of the changes that are occurring in their coding system as well as their claims system. So cool. Last slide, I just kind of wanted to touch on wrap up. You know, we've been talking a lot about what people are actually trying to solve for. And, you know, here are just some of the things that we've been able to drive for our customers when partnering with them on implementing a modern data stack. Similar to Kelly's slide, a lot of them tie to those 7 S's. And I'll just leave that up. But we have about 5 minutes left. Do we have any questions from the audience? I know we've been a little quiet in chat, so not sure if there's anything that people wanted us to go through.
Trying to stoke the chat line, but it's not working.
Not all of us have had 3 espressos.
That's right. Kelly. That's right.
Awesome. Well, Kelly or Neil, any last questions you wanted to go through before we sign off for the day?
Good for me. I mean, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was saying it was really great to hear from Rachel. Fivetran is really, I would say, a very essential and very, sort of helpful tool in the scheme of things to bring data to life. Whether you want to build new data capability, monetize it, replicate it to the cloud data platform in a very short amount of time and kind of scale yourself very quickly. So yeah, it was really overall, end to end what the modern data stack could do for people. I mean, that's a good observation.
Yeah, I think for me, Rachel, it's because Fivetran, you talked about in one of the slides, I think like 5-minute setup and config. And, if I can do it, which I can, that fast, I have nothing to lose by giving Fivetran a try. You guys have trial, no cost, all those kind of things. So that's usually what I tell people is, look, you're kind of missing out if you don't give it a spin. There's nothing to lose. There's no cost, and give it a shot and see if what we're telling you is the truth. It is. You will be exceptionally pleased with the amount of full automation and capabilities that Fivetran brings in this environment. So really appreciate those perspectives from you, Rachel, on the detail on how Fivetran works.
Yeah, of course. And the thing that I was going to throw out there too, if you are curious about something that's happening in the market, trying to solve a problem internally, I often refer my customers to the Hashmap website. They do a ton of free webinars. They have a lot of just amazing content on their site. They also have built some open source tools that I've had customers use to help with their permissions in Snowflake, as well as a number of various other things. So definitely give that website a peek. They've probably thought through and solved a problem that you are working on today. So might save you some time there. But Kelly,
Yeah.
Neil, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
A
Thanks.
lot of fun. Thank you for everybody that joined today, too.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.